Welcome back to the Always Reading Book Club. It is your girl Kiki Reader, and we are diving back into the Jilted Wives Club series by Bethany Lopez. Now, if you have not listened to the reviews for the first two books in the series, those two links are going to be available down below in the description section. Once you finish those reviews, come and join us as we dive into book three, which is called Work Wife. We start off with Margot at the speed dating event. This guy's talking to her, telling her how he lives with his mother, but it's only because he's in between jobs right now, and there's really no acting jobs in the city. And he's coughing, and he's like, "Oh, I don't have a cold. It's just a little tickle in my throat, just my allergies, just all kind of crap, right?" So he goes away. She shoots a text to Summer saying, "You owe me big time." So then a guy named Philip comes over. He has he's a slight French accent, and he seemed more down to F, which is what she's on, right? She didn't look for nothing serious. So this guy seemed like plausible for later activity. They only get like a few minutes with each guy. So leaves, and then up comes another guy, and he's really tall, dark hair, blue eyes, and she feels a little flutter in her stomach. And so the guy says his name is Aiden. They shake hands. He's got calluses, so she knows, oh, this is like a hardworking guy. And she's thinking like the complete opposite from her ex husband, right? They start talking, and she in her head goes, if this guy starts talking about kids or anything, she's just going to cross him off of her mental list, right? Because she doesn't want that. She wants a good time. That's it. So they have their little exchange, and he asked her if she was single. She said she was. He said he was single. She asked him, if this is normally one of the type of events he goes to, or if he's on dating apps. He says no, he normally isn't. He can definitely tell Margot is pretty forward. And we know that, based on the other books that we've reviewed. Like, yeah, Margot is just straight up. She lets you know what it is. That's it. And she asked for his number. And he said, "How about I catch you later, and we'll mingle after they finish the speed dating." So she talks with a few more people, but Aiden still stuck in her head. So they're done doing the speed dating. She spots Aiden. He's talking to some blonde chick. She's super short. Margot's like 5'10". And so she goes over, and she stands right next to him, and he says to the petite blonde woman, "It was nice meeting you." And the girl just looks like, "Oh, okay." Flings her hair. She goes to the bar. So she's talking with Aiden, and she gets right down to the point. She asks him if he wants to get out of here, and he says, I really would like to, but I have like a really busy early morning." For her, that's rejection, and she goes, "You're lost," and she walks off. We then switch to Aiden's POV, and he wasn't lying when he said he had a super early, busy, long day. So he is on the phone with his 10-year-old son, Tommy. He shares custody with his ex wife, Liz, and her new husband. I want to say his name is Rick. So the child's got a baseball game, and he's letting him know he's going to be there, and the other family members as well. So he stays at the family farm. It's a real functioning farm. He sells at the farmers markets for the farm. He does the marketing, the promotion and all that kind of stuff. He is also a firefighter, so he's got like two jobs. He has a sister named Andy and also an uncle They all live on the property, but they have their own houses. Now, he has his own place in the city because, again, he's a firefighter, but he can still stay out here, on the family farm. So, this is a huge freaking farm. This isn't like some small thing. It's huge. So, he goes to the main house, sees his dad, talks to him for a minute. His dad's been dieting because his mom's making him do a bunch of diets. And so after that, he goes in to see his mom. And she, of course, wants to know how the speed dating went. Did he meet anybody nice? He's thinking he met Margot, but Margot doesn't give off nice vibes. So she's like, well, did you meet anybody, that you would want to see again? And he just said it was good, it was nice, and that was it. The mom kind of made the statement how, he deserves happiness and, she would like to see him basically in a relationship again. So he just goes back to eating his food and he realizes that Margot definitely was putting it out there like, she one night stand. Now, back in the day, he would have done that. The problem is now with his life, it's busy, and for instance, he's going to pay today for being out late last night, you know? So today he's going to go into Center City and sell some of the produce. This is a newer spot for them. And if it goes well, then this will be a part of the regular rotation. Now, this is also his day off from being a firefighter. So, yeah, he's stay working. He's got like literally 2 full jobs. And he's a dad. So, he does feel guilty being that he is a firefighter because I guess this is the family business. And so he's got a sister and an uncle, like this is their full-time thing. And sometimes he feels some guilt because he chose a different path than the others. We switch back to Margot. She goes into work and she's known as Dragon Lady because she's like no nonsense, right? So for a period of time during the marriage and a little bit afterwards, they used to kind of pity her, which she hated. She couldn't stand it. And now that's long gone. It's back to her being the Dragon Lady because she is vice president. So it's lunchtime and she's got a little over an hour before she's got to be back before her next meeting. And so she decides, you know what? I'm going to go out, get me a good meal. And she sees the farmer's market coming together. And we find out our girl Margot is a whole foodie. She loves to cook. She's super good at it. And this is what she decides to do on her lunch break. And so she's going along and then she sees our boy Aiden. So she goes up to him. They have their little flirty back and forth. And she says that looking at her, she's got her stilettos on, her pantsuit. And he says, well, looking at you must be on your lunch break. And he tells her he wouldn't expect someone like her to be like at a farmer's market. And she's like, well, you shouldn't judge, And he's like, you're right. And she tells him she didn't anticipate seeing him here either. But it's a pleasant surprise. And, it shocked her, but because she's not shocked too many times. And she purchased her little items and gave her credit card. He gave it back. And then she took his business card and she said to him, now the ball's in my court. And she walked off. I say, look at Margot. So Aiden's at his kid's game. His mom's there, sister's there, and his ex-wife and her husband. And we find out she was his first love. They grew apart. It was mutual apparently, but the divorce was still hard on him. And he did feel some type of way when she, got married again. So his sister Andy comes and she sits next to him. She's talking and she's trying to find out what really happened at the event. And so he does open up to her, and he says to her, have you ever met somebody where you just kind of feel this connection with them? It's not necessarily sexual or anything. Not that you're not physically attracted to the person, because the person is attractive, but it's just this pull that you feel with them. And she goes, so you did meet someone. Because he was trying to act like he really hadn't. So he tells her, yeah, the woman's name was Margot. And Andy tells him, listen, if she doesn't want anything serious, that's okay. Everything doesn't have to end with marriage and kids. Enjoy it. Enjoy the time that you have with her, and take it from there. You deserve to be happy. You deserve to have some fun. So he told her he decided the next time that he was going to see her that he would ask her out. So then Andy ran back, told their mom, and said the woman's name and everything, just told her everything. And we find out basically the mom had sent Andy in for recon. That's what she sent her. So the mom felt like he had met somebody, or somebody had sparked his interest, and he just wasn't telling her. Now I did forget to mention, now before he like kind of spilled his guts to his sister, he kind of pointed out to her how, he knows she's messing with like the ranch man out there named Sam, you know, and X, Y, and Z about that. And he was like, well, how about you tell us about that? And she was honest. She said, we just hook up. We're adults. We enjoy each other's time, and that's that. We're adults. We know what's going on. That's that. So then the mom comes over, and he's like, you sent her over here. And she's like, listen, I knew you would open up more to her than you would to me. You don't necessarily want to talk about your love life with your mom, but I figured you'd tell your sister, you know. And the mom said the same thing. If she doesn't want anything long term, it's okay. Just enjoy yourself. You need to get back out there. You need to enjoy yourself. And she said sometimes you meet people in a that short period of time can have a lasting effect on your life. And you're better for having met them. And then after that, they all went back to focusing on the baby, Tommy, at the game. We switch back to Margot, and they take us back to when her mom was taking care of her, and remember she was crying and all that great stuff. So they describe that whole shebang again. So after that, she leaves from there. She gets in her car, and she's thinking about the fact that, she's not trying to be married, but she would at least like to have someone to be happy with for now. So she takes out the card that says Aiden Addison. She calls the phone number on there, and a woman answers, and they say Addison Farms. And she's thinking, is this the right number? And so then she says, hi, my name's Margot. I was calling to speak with Aiden. And the person went quiet. And then they go, well, he's not here today, but he'll be in on Sunday. What about 1 o'clock lunch date? Will that work for you? This, of course, made her happy, because Margot's thinking like, okay, he's clearly been talking to his assistant about me. So she says, yeah, 1 o'clock, that'll work. That'll be great. Looking forward to it. No, the person on the other line says, looking forward to seeing you, Margot. I'm thinking it's the sister. It's got to be either the sister or the mother who just did this. I don't know which one, but it's funny. It's cute. It is Sunday, and the farm has like a pumpkin patch that a lot of families come out and they enjoy. So our boy Aiden was helping with that. And then he comes back up to the main house, talks to his dad for a little bit. And the dad's like, yeah, something's going on, because they got flowers and stuff everywhere. And normally when the mom breaks out the flowers, that means a guest is coming over, right? So he goes inside. Andy is acting real suspicious. There's a ton of food, more than what's normally done on a Sunday. And he's like, what is going on? Well, then a car pulls up, this black, sleek car, and he sees Margot get out, and he looks at them and goes, "What have you all done?" So Margot comes up, and he's looking at her confusing, and she goes, "Did I get the time wrong? It was one, right?" So all the confessions come out, and we find out it was his mom that answered the phone, and he admitted like he didn't know that she was coming. He had planned on asking her out the next time that he saw her. And then the mother explained that, basically they were just trying to give him a little push. So that's why she did this. Again, it did make her it freaked her out a little bit, but it did make her happy, the fact that he had clearly been talking about her to his family, which means he was affected by her as well. So here it is, first date, and it's with his family. So he asked her if she didn't feel comfortable. She didn't have to stay. He wanted her to stay, but he understood if it was too much. But she was like, no, it's fine. She agreed to stay. The food looked amazing. She's eating, and the mother had asked her about her family, and she tells them, she was just raised by her dad because her mother wanted to be an actress and she didn't want to be a mother, and so she left. And her mom was like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry," and she's like, "No, no, no, it's fine. My father he was amazing. I never felt as if I was lacking because she wasn't there." So after she's eaten and it tasted so good she moaned, she didn't realize she had done it out loud. And the way that Aiden looked at her, these like fiery eyes, she could tell his thoughts were her thoughts as well. And this is not stuff you should be thinking at the parents' table. But she's thinking to herself, "Oh, I'm going to have fun with this." Dinner goes really well. The food's amazing. She tells the mom how great of a cook she is. She talks about her dad. He lives in New York. He owns a construction company. Just a nice flowing dinner. And she found out at this dinner what his other job was, that he was a firefighter as well, because the mom was saying how, you know, him working at the farm and having a full-time job. So to her, it was like, oh wow, because you got to think firefighter fantasy, it works. So the mom packed up containers to give her for leftovers, and Aiden walked her out, and the mom and Andy really had like a girl crush on our girl Margot. They felt like she was really great. And so the mom had told her, it was so nice to talk to you, X, Y, and Z. And so as Aiden walks her out, he apologizes again for how the evening came to start. And she says, you know, it's fine, you know? And he tells her, I'm happy you came though. I was happy to see you. He's like, but next time it's just going to be you and me. He was like, I would kiss you. I want to, but I want some first to be just for us. And so she understood that. And so she gave him her phone number, which was on her business card, put it in his pocket, and then she left. And then Andy, his sister, comes up to him, and he's like, I am so going to get you. And she's like, listen, we just wanted to meet her. We just wanted to give you a kick, a push. That's all. Now, they did remove all of the baby Tommy's photos, because they figured if he'd only talked to her a couple of times, he hadn't told her about his kid. For that, they knew that was, he decided that's something he should decide on when he's going to talk about his kid, bring his kid around, stuff like that. Because he's not going to bring, his thing is, it has to be something serious in order for him to introduce his kid. You know what I mean? But he is excited to see Margot again, and he winds up chasing his sister after that. So we switch back to Margot, and she's describing the penthouse she lives in. Plenty of rooms, really nice, and She calls her dad. His name is Maddox. So she calls her dad, and he was just getting in. And she's like, "Have you been out on a date?" And he goes, "No, I was out with the guys having drinks." We find out that the dad, apparently he doesn't have a special lady. He never really allows himself to fall. He was really in love with her mom. And so she feels like, honestly, he just never really got over it. And so he kind of keeps people at a distance. And I'm like, yep, sounds like her. Especially with Carson and how she got with him. And then it's like how that blew up. She definitely would be like, I'm just going to stick with keeping, people at a distance. But anyway, she invited her dad to come out to Thanksgiving to come and see her. And he was happy to do it. He wanted to meet the girls because he's heard so much about them. And he feels like he knows them, but he's excited to come and she's excited to have him. He asked her if there was anybody, you know, she had been dating. She immediately thought of Aiden, but again, they're just starting out. So she doesn't say anything. She's like, no, not right now. It's only been a few days. So then her and her dad, the dad was like, yeah, we went 6 months without seeing each other. We can't do that anymore. We got to stop with that. And she's like, yeah, because she does miss her dad. She's a daddy's girl. He's a great father to her. They don't like to have like a lot of, time in between seeing each other. That's her family. Aiden sends her a text asking her out on a date this coming Friday. And he's like, I know it's been a few days, but I haven't forgot about you. I just had some personal stuff and work to deal with. I've been so busy. And the personal stuff was like alert to her, like, personal, what the H? Like. But she's thinking like he can't be married. Like, I met his whole family. I don't think I'd be able to meet the family if he was married. She's hoping there's no secret, so I'm wondering how she's going to react when she finds out about Tommy. Ugh, I'm wondering. But anyway, she agrees. And he says to her, let me know how you want to do it. Do you want me to pick you up? Or do you want to just meet me at the place, at the restaurant? And she liked that he gave the option because apparently a lot of guys would get upset with her when she, wouldn't allow them to just come and pick her up, you know? But she shouldn't. She don't know you. And she clearly, Margot got money. Like, Margot's not she's rich. And you should do it even if you're not rich, I think. You should still be careful with that. But her even more so. But she winds up giving him her address. And she's like super happy because she's very much looking forward to this date. Aiden goes and picks her up for the date in his truck. The place wasn't very far. The restaurant's not far from where she lives. It's called the Ferdinand. And so it was a couple minutes and boom, they're there. So it's a good date, great conversation, flows easy, great food, good time. So as they're leaving, he realizes he needs to go ahead and tell her he's got a kid because he feels like she doesn't appear to be the type that likes kids. So he kind of feels like he needs to go ahead, tell her, put it out there, and then that way, if she can't deal with it, he can just stop this now. So he tells her, I got something to tell you. And she's like, okay, spit it out. And he says, I was married. I got divorced. I share custody of my 10-year-old son, Tommy, with my ex-wife. And she immediately stiffens. And he noticed it. And he said, I'm not saying this to you because I want you to meet him right away or anything like that. But I just figured it's something you should know about, that he exists. I don't introduce him unless it's someone I'm serious about, X, Y, and Z. And he's like, I hope we can see each other again, but I just want to be completely honest. So she tells him she's going to have to think about it. And she's not going to ask him to come up tonight. And he said, even if you would have asked me to come up, I wouldn't have done it because I need a little bit more time. I don't just jump like that. And so she did say to him, that when he was worried about if he would hear from her again. She did say to him, call me and find out. So that's promising. Our girl Margot was talking to our Jilted Wives Club people. And yes, Charlotte is a permanent member now. And she's telling them about what was happening. No, Summer had just gotten proposed to, and they were celebrating that. And she blurted out, Margot, about old dude Aiden. They didn't even know who the hell Aiden was because she hadn't talked about him. So then she had to go through the whole thing of explaining everything. They're flabbergasted, you know. They're super happy for her. But then there, of course, you know, the issue with him having a child. She said, you know, she never wanted children herself, but she never thought about the fact that someone she could be dating would have a kid because she's never dated anyone who's had kids. It's just never been an issue. So Whitney was like, well, what's the situation with the mother? And she told her, and she says, well, then the child has a mother, child has a father. He's not going to introduce you to the child anytime soon. So there's not going to be interaction. So what's the harm, you know, getting to know someone that clearly you really like? Because you don't talk about anyone. You know, the only guy you've ever really talked about was Carson. So the fact that you're bringing up this guy means you really like him. So why not see where it goes? And so she, of course, is concerned about heartbreak, you know. And she's like, you know what, if I move forward with this, it doesn't work out. That's the part that she doesn't want to deal with. And they were like, well, what if it does work out? Isn't it worth it? And Margot was like, honestly, I don't know. Aiden's doing the farmer's market in City Center or Center City, however it goes. Um, Tommy came along with him because he comes along sometimes and he helps out. So the sales are going really good. A lot of stuff is selling out. He's definitely going to make this place a part of his permanent rotation. So Tommy runs off to go give some squash to one of the other vendors. And long and behold, our girl Margot walks up. And he's thinking, oh shoot, oh shoot, oh shoot. Because he's happy to see her. But remember what he had told her. He hadn't planned on any, you know, interaction with his kids. So it's like, if that little boy comes back, what is he going to do? You know? And he was happy because she did sound like she was still interested in him. But then he seen his kid coming. And he's like, oh, shoot, oh, shoot. You know? And sure enough, the little boy comes up and he stopped in his tracks and he goes, whoa. And all Aiden could do was introduce them. She went stiff again. He said, Margot, this is my son Tommy. Tommy, this is Margot. Tommy goes, you're really pretty. And she was like, thank you. And poor Aiden is like, oh shoot, I probably ruined this. She's probably gonna like not want to talk to me anymore. But the little boy, he's one of those sweet kids who you can't help but like him. So he's talking to her and he's talking about the firehouse and he asked her what her father did, and you know, he thought it was cool that her dad ran this construction business and scared people, and he asked her, is that what you do? And she said pretty much. And he's like, cool, you know? So he's the sweetest kid, you know? And she says, well, I better get back. And she tells Aiden to call her. And Aiden's like, okay, well, at least she still wants to see him again, you know? So when she walks off, Tommy says, Dad, you like her, don't you? He's like, yeah, I do. And Tommy's like, I get it. She's really pretty. I like her too. She seems cool. So I'm like, at least it was a positive interaction with the kid. And again, he didn't set that up. It's not something he was trying to do. It was like by chance. It is now Halloween. Margot is outside of the fire station. Her and Whitney are on the phone having a conversation, and they're talking about what they're going to do with for Summer's gender reveal. And she tells Whitney where she is, and Whitney's like, "Oh my gosh, like this is big because this is like another part of his family. He spends a lot of times with those guys. She hadn't even thought about that, but she was coming to help give out candy for Halloween at the station. So it is what it is. So she gets off the phone, goes in, meets this big blonde dude who is flirting with her, and she of course is like telling the guy, she's there to see Aiden. I think they call him Denny. That's his name at the station because there's like Donnie, Gordo, all these different names. So the guy's like, Denny, the most beautiful woman in the world, is here to see you. So Aiden comes out because Aiden had poked his head out earlier and saw her. So she gave him the candy and they did the whole nice to meet you thing with the other guy. And Aiden's like, let me take you on a tour. So he's taking her on a tour. They're in the hallway. They get all close. They wind up having their first kiss. And it gets interrupted by one of the guys saying, hey, Liz, um, which is Aiden's ex-wife, just dropped off Tommy. And he was like, damn it. She was supposed to have him this year for Halloween. And so he was afraid she was going to freak out. Because it's like, hell, at this point, though, she's already met the kid. But again, he feels like he told her he doesn't do this, but these situations keep happening. And she told him, listen, he's a cool kid. It's absolutely fine. So he took her hand in his and they walked into the unknown. So Aiden takes Margot and Tommy's talking to the guys and he lights up when he sees Margot. He's dressed in his favorite baseball player. I think it was something Stout, Mike, something. And Margot knew who the baseball player was. That was it for that little boy. Like he loves Margot so much. He wanted to hand out candy with the guys, and so he did that for a little while. And then he wanted to go trick or treating with his friends because they had come up, and he begged his dad to go with them and their the parents and stuff were there, and he's like, you don't want to eat dinner? He's like, I ate before mom dropped me off. So he's like, all right, just be good. So he does a quick rest of the tour. The chief, everyone there, cool as hell. And one of the guys, I think his name was Donnie, was the one that made the dinner. It looked great. The guys were fighting over who Margot was going to sit next to, and Margot was like, I'm sitting next to Donnie since he made this meal. So she's winning everybody over, you know? And he's looking at her again like she is just so not what he has expected, but what a wonderful surprise. We switch to Margot's POV. Margot's working late. Carson brings his fiance there. She's very immature. Her name is Tatum, but they call her Tatty, and I guess that's her nickname. But she can hear her yelling, saying, why don't you want me to come in here? Are you still sleeping with her? Like all this type of crap. So of course Margot gets up, comes to the door, and she's like, what the hell is going on? And she had to put the heifer in her place because at first the girl was like, looking her up and down with the attitude and just being loud. And Margot was like, you can't come in here with that. And the girl was like, are you jealous? Because he's clearly moved on and clearly he upgraded. He doesn't want you. And Margot says, no, I'm not jealous. You're in my office that I run. I'm his boss. And he told Carson, you need to take the trash out or I'll have the housekeeper do it. So then the helper tried to bolt up, but Carson was like, he told Margot, I'm so sorry. I didn't think so many people would be here. Margot says, well, I'm here, so you need to leave. So he gets the girl out of there. She goes back in the office. She's about to have a drink, and then Aiden called her, and she answered, of course, and it was nice to hear him. He's at the station, and he was, just wanted to apologize again. He's like, I know it doesn't seem like I'm taking things slow with how stuff keeps happening. But again, she says, it's all good, you know? And what did she say to him? She said to him about that kiss that they had. She wants to explore. She wants more of that. And she told him, like, I don't play with games, you know? Which, that's who she is. But I like that she's forward like that, you know? So she says, when can I see you? And he says, I'm off this Wednesday. So she says, my place 7, I'll cook you dinner. And he goes, it's a date. And she told him, think about that kiss because I sure will be. So, because, you know, Margot got to find out if what he working with works. All right, it's the day of the date. Aiden gets there. He's like 15 minutes early. He had done everything he could. He was like vacuuming, doing all kind of stuff to prolong the time, but he ran out of stuff to do. So 15 minutes early, he's at her door, and she knew he was coming because security, of course, had alerted her. So she opens the door, but she doesn't have on any makeup. She's fresh faced. She's not made up, and she is still so gorgeous. Yet here's another side of her he's never seen, and he's so intrigued. So he realizes when he looks at this place, it comes out. He goes, "You're rich," and Margot also came from money because her dad's rich, right? And so he's like, "You've been rich," and she goes, "Yes, I am. Is that a problem for you?" Because she's like, "I know some men have a problem with that, you know," and he's like, no, it's not a problem for me at all. So she asked him if um, he said he needed a vacation with all the work and he's been doing. And she said, well, where would you want to go? And he said, somewhere with a beach. And she said, well, my dad owns a place in San Tropez. And he said, the most I can do is take you to Myrtle Beach. So she says, well, then you'll take me to Myrtle Beach and I'll take you to San Tropez. She's like, I don't need a man to buy me things. I can do that myself. She's like, I need someone trustworthy, all these different things. And then lastly, she says, and can give me multiple orgasms. And he said, I can do that. And she's like, I'm going to hold you to it. So then they have this passionate kiss. And she's like, we eat first and then we'll do more of that later. And he starts thinking, I wonder how fast I can eat before it's considered rude. Aiden fell asleep. Margot, they had this great dinner, okay? And he went and sat on the couch while she went to prepare dessert and clean up a little in the kitchen. And when she came back out, he was knocked out. And because she knows how hard he works, she did not have the heart to wake him up. He looks so peaceful. So then she gets a call from Summer, who's downstairs for security. And she tells him, let her up. So Summer comes up and she's like, what's going on? And Summer was like, Noah had this thing at school. I got bored, but I wanted to see your face. I know we're going to see each other tomorrow, but I just want to see you now. Make sure everything's okay. And she says, okay, I'm going to show you something, but you got to be quiet. So she takes her in to show her the dude sleeping. Of course, and Summer can't help it. She goes, oh, he's hot. And she said it so loud it woke him up. And he's like, how long was I out? And so the whole introduction thing gets done, which is super cute. And again, they're moving at a pace neither one of them anticipated. So it's like, you might as well just meet the friends. It is what it is. Well, Summer is saying, well, we're going to have our Jilted Wives Club's meeting tomorrow. Like, you should come. And he'll like, I'll be there, And he got a message that he had to leave because something's going on at the fire station. And so he told her, text me the address and the time and I'll be there. And Margot was thinking like, she doesn't know if she's ready for these two worlds to collide. But at this point, she feels like she shouldn't stop it. Just let it go ahead and be what it's going to be. So it's the day of the meeting. Everyone, Summer's the only person there at first. And she's sitting with our boy. And then Whitney comes and Charlotte. And I think Summer told them different times so she could get them to talk to him before Margot got there. But anyway, he's telling them how it happened with her meeting his son and stuff like that. And they bring up Thanksgiving weekend, and he's like, he's got to work because Summer had invited him to come to that event as well. But he's like, no, I got to work. But we at the station, we cook and give plates out to the homeless. And so he's telling the story about Margot meeting the kids and stuff. And Margot shows up, and she, of course, is like, okay, what are we talking about? Margot states that Aiden looked like he was ready to bolt, so she knows they were asking him some real questions, and she didn't want to dig into it right then. So then the conversation did flow pretty easily. It comes up that Damon is having an art show, and so Charlotte invited Aiden to the show and was like, if you would put a flyer at the fire station, that would be great too. He was like, sure, the guys like to try new things, so they just might come. So he winds up asking Margot if she'll go with him to the event. She says yes, as long as afterwards you follow me home. And he was like, oh, yeah, I can do that. He brings Margot back to her place, and they get to the penthouse. They're making out in the elevator in the hallway. They made it to the living room, and he said something about taking it to her bedroom. And so they go in, they have their nice heart fuck, and then afterwards they both fell asleep, just clearly comfortable with one another. So when they woke up, she brought up about Thanksgiving and, with the invite. And he, of course, said, he wouldn't be able to because he had to work. And she did tell him, like, in all honesty, I was going to invite you, you know. Like, don't feel like I wasn't going to, that they just did that by them. I was going to invite you. She says her dad is going to be there, so this is a huge deal for her. And he understood what the magnitude of that meant for her because her dad is everything to her. And so he's very much smitten with her. Aiden gets a call. He's got to get Tommy. And he asked her if that was okay. She's like, absolutely. She found that she was actually looking forward to seeing the little boy again. Like, he's a sweet kid. To her, she's thinking this is weird because that's not her normal. But again, nothing about this is, you know, going the way they anticipated. So it's like they're just going with it. So they wind up going bowling. Now, when it came to renting shoes, Margot said, I'm not doing that. That's not sanitary. She winds up buying them brand new shoes for all of them. And she even buys herself a bowling ball because she was not using other people's stuff. She was like a germaphobe. But Tommy was happy. He said, like, now I have my own shoes. And she's like, yes, and now you don't have to worry about anyone else's feet being in them. She sucks at bowling. Tommy showed her how to hold, how to do something. And she winds up knocking down 2 pins. She was so excited. Tommy hugged her. And she froze. And then she slowly came out of it. He's a little worried, Aiden, because, his son is very much falling in love with this woman, which means that if this shit don't work out, this is going to hurt his son. Which, again, is why he wanted to wait before the whole introduction thing. But at this point, it's too late for that. The train done left the station. Hopefully it works out, and he just hopes it doesn't break both of their hearts. So it is Thanksgiving. Everyone's there. It's beautiful setup. We get a little updates on everyone. Luca's mom is the one in the kitchen with Stella and Silas, and we find out they have a really special bond with their new grandmother, which I think is so sweet. She talked to Noah. Noah was saying how he's excited to be a father. He didn't care what the baby was, male or female. He was happy. And he's going to have so many books. He's going to turn the basement into a library and, like, make a children's section. So then her dad comes and she hugs him so much she missed him. Again, it's been over 6 months the last time they saw each other, and they can't do that no more. She introduces him to everyone, and they were getting close. This is a really nice event, by the way. There's like a DJ, there's a dessert bar, there's a bar, huge table for everyone to sit. It's like a really beautiful, nice setup. Well, she looks up and she sees Aiden, And remember, Aiden said he had to work, so she goes over to him and she says, "What are you doing here?" But she was happy to see him. She had a smile on her face. And he said, "Well, I only have an hour, but I wanted, to spend some time with you and your friends." And so he's like, Tommy's with his mom, and my mom's going to do Thanksgiving on Sunday, and everyone will be there, and she would like for you to be there as well, as do I. So please come. And she's like, "Oh my gosh, you had an hour and you wanted to come and be here with me?" He's like, "Yeah." Her heart did a little flutter again, you know? And she finds that whenever he comes around, this woman has got a smile on her face and she's got butterflies in her stomach. We switched to Aiden's POV, and he was happy that she was happy he was there. She smiled when she saw him. He was a little nervous. Um, and she asked him, "Do you want something to eat? Do you want something to drink?" And he's like, "Honestly, no, I'll eat at the station." He was like, "I really wanted to meet your dad." And he saw a huge smile come across her face. And she was clearly happy that he had said that. So she goes and introduces him to her dad. "Dad, this is Aiden. Aiden, this is my father, Maddox." He's an intimidating guy, super tall, same blue eyes and dark hair as Margot. And he talks to the dad, and he wanted a minute alone with him. And after Margot introduced them, and the way she introduced Aiden, also she called him her boyfriend, which made him smile. And the dad looked a little shocked because he didn't realize that they had gotten to that point. Because I don't think he didn't know about Aiden. I don't think so. They sit down, and Aiden says to the dad, that he's a firefighter. I only have an hour. That's why I couldn't stay for the whole thing. And he told him how he also works on his family's farm. He handles the farmers markets, blah, blah, blah. He's like, "I'm a divorcee, 5 years. I have a 10-year-old son named Tommy. This is the first relationship I've been in since my divorce." The dad was like, "Okay." He said, "Well, then, um, Maddox was like, I'd like to, spend some more time with you before I leave. And I would like for you to bring your son as well." And he's like, "Okay, that works. We can definitely work that in." So again, it feels like it's inevitable at this point for everybody to meet. So it's like, you might as well. So then Margot takes Aiden to go meet Miss Russo. And, she's kind of the host of the event, Lucas's mom. And Miss Russo is the best. She, of course, is like, "Oh my gosh, you're so handsome." And she was like, "Let's get you a plate." And she's like, "Oh no." He's like, "Oh no, I got to get back to the fire station. We're feeding the homeless." And Ms. Russo says, "You know what? Thank you for reminding me of what this day is truly about." So she made an announcement to everyone that they were going to, fill their bellies. But then once they were done, they were going to pack up the remaining food, and take it to the fire station and give it to the less fortunate. And he's like, "You don't have to do that." And she said, "No," she said, "we do have to do that. And I wish I had thought about it before." So again, I think that's the beautiful part about this whole friend group and the people within it. These people they have like beautiful hearts. They all do. And so it's so sweet. They're so sweet. They get down to the station, and the day just got better, like bringing down the food. The firefighter family, they were great. Everyone was cool. Everyone got along. Whitney and Summer were emotional watching her be happy. You know, they of course had always wanted their friend to meet someone, and to see her so happy and being in her bubble, it's just they loved it. They really did. Now she had to get away from them. She's like, "I can't do all this crying shit." She was like, "I gotta go." So she goes and finds Aiden. She also talked to her dad before they left the other event space. I forgot to mention. Her dad said, he's a good man. He's a firefighter, so that means he cares about people and he helps. He helps out at his family's farm, so family is important to him. And his face lit up when he talked about his son. You know, he seems like a really good dude. Nothing like that Carson dude, because the Carson, he says Carson is just one no good person. Period. He cannot stand talking. He can't stand Carson. So what happened? So they're at the station, and she goes and finds Aiden after Whitney and Summer start their crime fest. And so she grabbed him and took him down the hall. They kissed. And he said, well, what was that for, And he's like, can we talk about the fact that you called me your boyfriend? And she was like, invading the question. And she said that, about getting together with her dad for the week before he leaves. Because I think he leaves on Sunday. So they just got a couple days to get together. And she was like, she would have hoped her dad could have met Aiden's family, because they're like really sweet, nice people, but he's got to be back. He leaves out on Sunday. So, but she was like, next time, and it seems like it's working, which is freaking me out, because I'm like, what foot is, like, when's the other foot going to drop? Something's got to drop. And I'm like, what is it that's going to happen? So they wound up taking the dad to Top Golf. Tommy was scared at first because he remembered what Margot had said, which was that her dad was scary. So Aiden was like, I've met him, he's nice. It'll be fine. So Margot had texted them, they were on number 25. Tommy took off for number 25. By the time Aiden got there, Tommy and Maddox were chatting it up. It was so sweet. The baby was telling Maddox about what happened with Margot and the bowling shoes, and Maddox like, yeah, she's always had an issue with germs. And she was wiping down the clubs they were using and the menus and everything. It went really well. The dad got along great with the kid. It made Aiden really happy that here was another great addition in Tommy's life. And so then Margot's gonna, what happened with Margot is gonna come over for Thanksgiving on Sunday. He told her about this barn Christmas event thing that they do, and he's like, you should, invite your friends as well. And they've got an art thing coming up. It's just, it's giving, it's all so sweet. Like this just natural progression of this relationship. Even though it's been a short period of time, it doesn't feel as if it's being rushed to them, which is sweet. So it's Sunday. It's that the Thanksgiving dinner. The adults are outside having a cocktail. Tommy's inside with the grandparents. They're having conversation. They wind up talking about Andy, Aiden's sister. So apparently, Andy and her boo thing, Sam works on the farm too. They stopped hooking up, and apparently they haven't really been seeing Sam around. And Andy was like, we'll figure it out. We're adults. We should be able to, blah, blah, blah. And she looked at Margot and she's like, Margot, you work with your ex, right? And Margot's like, yeah, but it did start off a little differently. And so she explained how all of that happened up into the marriage and then the cheating. And Andy drops a bombshell. And we find out that 5 years ago, her ass married in Vegas too, to this dude named Calum, who works at a competing farm with this family's farm, right? And Aiden had no idea about this. So what happened was they were both at this bachelor and bachelorette party. They kissed a few times, and then they got drunk. They wound up going to the little chapel, and they got married by an Elvis. They realized it was a mistake, and they got it annulled. Aiden was losing his shit because, again, he didn't know anything about this. Margot is watching the back and forth between them because she's having so much fun with this conversation, okay? And he's like, listen, I didn't tell anybody because mom always wanted me to have this big lavish wedding. I didn't want to disappoint her. So I just never said anything. I just left it alone. it got annulled, so it's like it never happened. And so that's how I've been treating it. He is like, Aiden's like, we not done talking about this. But they changed the subject and they were talking about Margot's dad. And they were saying how, it would have been nice to have him here and all this type of stuff. And, again, she said next time for sure. And also, Maddox is thinking of buying a place out this way once he retires. The thing is to get his ass to retire. That's going to be the thing. He also made a promise to Tommy to take him to a Yankees game. So Tommy has been talking about this for the past 2 days. He's so excited. And Margot's like, listen, if my dad said it, he's going to do it. He does not renege on promises. It is the night of the art gallery for Damon. At the art gallery, his showing. And the firefighter friends came. They're in a corner. They're talking to Damon. He seems pretty cool. The guys really get along with anyone. This is a high-end event, which is not really something that Aiden does pretty much ever, but he is enjoying himself because he does like to people watch. So Margot's in the corner with her girl. She's having a great time. And Damon keeps focusing on Charlotte. No matter where she moves in the room, he finds her. So, and there's like this longing look that he gives to Charlotte. So I'm like, we gotta find out. I wasn't gonna read the fourth book, but after I was like, you know what? We're gonna do all 4 books in the series and find out what happens. So anyway, Margot comes over to Aiden and asks him if he's having a good time. He says he is. The firefighter guys come over and she's like, what are you guys doing? Mingle. Because they're like kind of nervous to talk to the women. But there's different women who've been like looking at them. So she starts pointing out the different ones and pushing the dudes in those in the women's direction. And he says to her, Aiden's like, you want to get out of here? And she's like, yeah, what do you got in mind? He's like, let's go to Shakey's and get some burgers and fries. And she's like, you read my mind. So they tell the guys want to come as well because apparently everyone loves Shakey's. And I was like, well, this is cute, but still terrified. When's the other shoe going to drop? That's what it is. What did I say earlier? The leg drop. The other shoe. The other shoe that's going to drop. We switch to Margot's POV. They go to Shakey's. Everyone comes along. Great time. They were kind of rowdy, but the Shaky people got their ass in and out. They were being really cute with each other, Aiden and Margot. And they were like, oh my God, are we in that phase where we're insufferable? We're so lovey-dovey. And he's like, yeah, I think we are. So he gave her a quick kiss and then they broke apart. And when they left out of Shakey's, the firefighter guys were ready to they were like, let's keep this night going, right? They were having so much fun. They were like, we don't get out like this. Let's keep it going. So Luca, Whitney, Charlotte, and Damon are going to go with the guys and hang out, go to a club. Noah and Summer going home. She pregnant. She tired. Aiden was like, he was ready to go, and Margot was like, if you want to go, I'll muster up some strength. But he's like, no, I won't go. So she says, your place or mine? And he says, my place. So this is going to be the first time that they're going to his place because they normally just were going to Margot's. So she brought an overnight bag hoping they would go to his place, so this works out. So they get to his place and she sees the dog Midnight, which he hadn't told her about the dog. And she was kind of scared of the dog at first, but the dog, it's a loving dog. So soon as he smelled her and he was up against her, he was gone. He's good. So he has a really nice townhouse. And for some reason, she was scared he might be living like a frat guy. Then she thought, why would I think that? He's a dad, he's a good dad. Like, clearly not. And so then he's like, you want me to show you your bedroom? And she's like, I thought you would never ask. Next morning, they wake up. Aiden got like tugged on by Midnight. And he was like, God dang it, this dog does not understand the concept of the weekend. Margot's like, don't worry, I got him. She puts on one of Aiden's shirts and takes the dog out. She's making coffee. He gets up, puts on some bottoms, brushes his teeth, comes out, and he's like, "You are a godsend." They go outside on the like little stoop and have their coffee. He got her a blanket so she didn't have, because she didn't have any bottoms on. And then his ex-wife Liz pulls up because she was coming over because Tommy needed like some glove. He was going with another friend's family, so he asked her to come and get it. So you got to think the past 5 years she's been able to drop by because there's been no one there, you know. And halfway up the stairs, she sees Margot, and she's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry," you know. And she explained like, you know, they did the introductions, but she knew who Margot was because Aiden had said talked about her, but also the baby Tommy talks about her all the time, and he had told her how much he really enjoyed her dad and stuff like that. Speaks really highly of both of them. And then Aiden was like, "Well, let me go and get the glove," but he waited before he came back out because he was kind of eavesdropping. So Liz made a comment about how she was happy that Aiden had found someone. You know, he had always wanted a big family, get married, and have that big family. You know, that's just the type of dude he is. And Margot got real quiet. He's now terrified, and when he goes out, she seems to be a little shell shocked. So he gives Liz the glove, do the whole nice to meet you. They do that. She leaves. And so he's like, "Are you okay? Do you want to break up with me? Should we break up or should we write our vows?" And that brought her out of her stupor and she laughed. And she goes, "Well, how about some breakfast?" And so they're just going to go and get some breakfast. Now, I don't know if the ex-wife, was being funny or if she was just speaking matter of factly. I don't know. It could be a little bit of both, to be honest. Margot invited Andy to join the group, and Andy explained what happened, you know, with her whole debacle in Vegas. And of course, the women are like, "Yes, join." They, you know, they're ready. So everyone told their different stories of what happened to them. And Summer wanted to see a picture of the Callum dude, you know. So she found a picture on Facebook, and everyone's like, "God damn, he's hot. Like, did you all ever try like do any like, jeez?" And she was like, "You know, I saw him once when I got back, but he was already with somebody else, and so we just never. That was it. It was just a moment, you know." But it was a nice get together for the girls. Super cool. So Aiden decided to stop by and surprise Margot and bring her some flowers because Andy had told her how great it was with the girls. It made him really happy because Andy really doesn't have a lot of girlfriends. She's kind of a tomboy, and now she has her own little girl gang, which is what she calls them. So he wanted to come by, thank her for that, and ask her to go to lunch. So they tell him where, because he's in his firefighter outfit. So they tell him where her office is. She's not in there. So he was going to leave a note, and then a dude pops up, and of course, it's fucking Carson. So Carson was like, "Who are you?" And Aiden's like, "I'm her boyfriend." And he says, "She doesn't do boyfriends." And he starts talking all this smack and saying that, you know, she only loves herself. She's so career driven. That's why they didn't work out. Aiden was like, "I thought it was because you couldn't keep your dick in your pants." And the dude was like, "Well, it was because she's so cold." But that's the opposite of what Aiden has seen. And then Carson says something about how she hates kids and how happy he is where he is now with this new woman. Like all this kind of crap. And he did start thinking about how she tenses up when he initially told her he had a kid, when the kid hugged her, how the dad looked, had a concerned look when he said he had a kid. Like all of that stuff is starting to like come together in his head. And so Margot comes in. She smiles when, you know, when she sees Aiden, but then when she sees Carson, that smile leaves so fast, and she's like, "What are you doing here?" You know. And so he leaves. Carson gets out. So then Aiden says to her, "Do you hate kids?" And she said, "I don't hate all kids. I just can only deal with them, I guess, in small doses. So he finally asked her, "Do you want to have children?" And she said no. And he realized if they were staying together, like, he's not going to have any more children. And he doesn't know how he feels about that, you know? And she told him, like, I love Tommy, you know? But he's starting to think that it might not be enough. Margot calls an emergency meeting. She is freaking out. So everyone shows up, even Andy. Andy was like, "Listen, if my brother did wrong, I'm going to trash him. You know, it's not a problem. It's about the sisterhood." So she tells them about what happened. And she's like, "I wanted to say something to him before about it, but I was afraid if I said it, I would lose him. And I didn't want to do it." And Summer says, "Oh my God, you love him." And Margot gets tears in her eyes. And Margot had told them, you know, the conversation that her and Liz had. And Andy was like, Liz can fuck off. She broke my brother's heart. And just because that was something he wanted back then, it doesn't mean that's what he still wants. He doesn't talk about it, you know. That's not something he says, like he still wants his huge family. So she can go fuck herself, you know. Like, Andy clearly does not like the ex-wife. Which kind of makes me feel like, did the ex-wife say that to fuck up some shit, you know? Kind of wonder. So Andy tells her, just give him time. He'll wrap his head around it, and he'll be fine. Just give him some time. So they're going in, they're about to eat the pizza, and then Annie gets a phone call, and she gets this look on her face, and it was her mom. Aiden's in the hospital. We switch to Aiden's POV, and we find out he was at the station. He was thinking everything through. He realized in the back of his, in the back of his head after the divorce with Liz, he hadn't really thought about more kids, but it was kind of like he put it on the back burner. He never stopped wanting to have a big family. But then as he thought about it, Tommy and Margot were enough for him. He didn't need more. They were more than enough. And so it was just like Andy had said, just give him some time to lug his head around it. He'll be all right. So then they get a call. So they jump on the fire truck, and they have this saying, this superstition where they all look at each other and they say, not today. So it's a farmhouse that's on fire, which freaks him out a little bit because it makes him think about his family. So he winds up saving the girl and her clawing cat. And then he asked the girl if there was anyone else in the house, and she said her dad. And so all the other firefighters are clearing the different rooms. Aiden finds the dude. The dude has like a table. He's about to hit the window, and Aiden's like, "Don't do it, no." But the guy didn't listen or couldn't hear him, and so when he hits the window, it explodes, and all Aiden it flew Aiden back, and all he could everything went black as he thought. Not today. So everybody's at the hospital. Liz and her husband left, and Tommy's gonna stay because the grandparents was like, they'll take him back to the house. And Margot was like, I'll stay with him, you know. And so at first he had his earphones on playing games or whatever. And then he was like, Margot, I'm tired. And so she got her coat and she laid it on the floor and she sat next to it, and he laid on her lap, and she told him about how her dad would read her books to help her go to sleep, and she read him, pulled up Percy Jackson and read it to him until he fell asleep. And so Charlotte and Whitney were there, of course, but then they made Summer go home because it was late, and she doesn't need added stress, you know. So they get the report. He's got like a broken right radius and a, is it humerus or something like that? Some back soreness, bruises, but he's gonna be okay. He will survive. So then eventually they're able to see him. Annie takes Tommy back. Margot needed a minute, so she was happy to let the baby go first because she really was close. The thought was she was really close to losing that man, and that freaked her out. So we switch back to Aiden. He's coming in and out of consciousness. He sees Tommy and Andy. He sees his mom. or maybe his parents. Then Tommy cries and he tells him, "I'm okay, buddy. I promise." They say they I love yous, and they asked if the other guy made it. He did. Um, then he asked about Margot, and Andy tells him, "Yeah, she's here, but they're only letting two people in at a time, so she'll come in next." So he goes out, he comes back into consciousness. He's happy to see her. She of course tells him how she was so terrified she was going to lose him. He says, you don't have to apologize, cuz they were apologizing about the argument from before. And he's like, "I thought about everything." He told her, "I want you and just you. I love you." She told him she loved him. It was really sweet. And she's like, "I'm not leaving. I'm not going anywhere." And she says, "But the guys do want to see you. So I'm going to let them come in, but I'll come back." And he's like, "Okay." And then they said their "I love yous" again. It was sweet. So we fast forward. She's been taking care of him. It's driving him a little crazy. She don't care. She gonna make sure her boo is good. So they've gotten to the night of the Christmas barn thing. This is her first time getting dressed up in some weeks because she's been in yoga pants taking care of him. So they get to the event. Friends and family are there. Everyone shows up. Definitely something sparking between Damon and Charlotte. Whitney is like, "I'm gonna get that popping. I'm gonna get that together." Those two. Um, a slow song comes on. Aiden wants to dance with her. He's like, "I'll go slow and we'll just, rock back and forth." She tells him, "I'm going to have to get a really great gift for summer. I owe her for asking me to go, speed dating." And he says, "We'll just pay for the kids' college." We fast forward. Aiden takes her to Thrive, which is the name of the bar where they had the speed dating event. And when they go in there, there's no one there but like one person. But there's all these lilacs, which is her favorite flower. So he gets on one knee and tells her this whole beautiful spiel of how, when he first met her, how intimidating she was and how beautiful and just all the things she is. She's a wonderful person, and how much, he loves how much she loves his son and all this type of stuff. So then he breaks out the Tiffany box, asks her to marry him, and he's like, "I'll spend every day trying to make you happy." And she says, "We'll spend our lives making each other happy." And that's how it ends. I love that. So the next book and the last book in the series is called Backup Wife, and that's going to be Charlotte's story. So we're going to dive into that one next week. What did you all think? I loved it. Um, Again, it took so long to get to the other shoe dropping. I was nervous because I was like, "Oh gosh, how bad is it going to be?" Um, but it wasn't too bad. They definitely should have had a conversation about, do you want kids? I would have figured that's something he would have asked the minute she stiffened up when he said that he had a kid. You know what I mean? But again, I think you like people, you don't want to hear certain answers, and that's kind of what happened with them. But I like that they embraced everything that kind of came along, and they didn't panic and freak out too bad. Yes, our girl froze up a few times, but she didn't run for the hills like I thought she would. She did good. But what did you guys think? Drop down in the comment section and let me know. If you are in the market for a beautiful notebook or journal, I do have those available, and the link is going to be available down below in the description section. Make sure you like and subscribe and share. And as always, I truly do thank you all for your support, and thank you for tuning in to the Always Reading Book Club.